Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by my colleague and good friend Rod Babers, here to talk a little Longhorn football. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by our good friends at Hargrove Roofing. Coming off of the Ohio State loss, looking ahead to the home opener against San Jose State. Rod, we're going to play a little game. We're going to bring up some subjects related to Longhorn football. And I'm going to ask you, is this an overreaction or is this something that we need to be concerned about? Is it a problem? Are you ready, Rod? Let's just go ahead and jump right into this.
Let's do it.
Rod, topic number one, the Texas red zone offense is broken and is in need of an overhaul. An overreaction or a legitimate concern?
No, I will not belittle or, in any way try to mock the concerns of Longhorn fans when it comes to red zone offense, because now you're dealing with 2 years of it. Now this year's the third, potentially. Hopefully they get it fixed, but 2 years where you have been a below average or at times inept red zone offense. And Sark, I've given him a lot of credit for being a problem solver in the off seasons, fixing things that are problematic, things that are limiting your championship potential. And I think he does a good job of that in the off season. There's no doubt he has tried to fix the red zone offense, and he does not have the solution right now. They don't have a red zone identity. There's something different in the red zone. So it feels like every game, which I respect, because he's trying to throw different option out there and see if something sticks, but they need to be able to hang their hat on something in the red zone, have an identity in the red zone. And that's where he's struggling. Coach Bob Shipley, talking to him about, he said, I would hire a red zone coordinator. Just somebody who all they do is red zone. That's all they call, because it's clear by now that is a blind spot for Sark. We know his offensive acumen. We know that he's an offensive kind of mastermind, but there's no question red zone offense is it seems to be, for me, his Achilles heel right now. And you can if you want to say it, you can argue that it has held him back from already being a team that can compete for a championship or win a championship because of the red zone offense.
I guess if you want kind of a silver lining to it, if you go back and look, the goal to go situation in the Cotton Bowl is a different deal because that ended your season. Yeah. But if you look at the Texas offense, go back to 2023 when they had 4 shots, had first and goal at the 1. You had 4 shots at point blank range against Oklahoma, and you got turned away. They became a better red zone offense after that game. We knew they were bad, but I don't think we knew how bad it was until they got stolen by Oklahoma. So, yeah. Rod, maybe the hope is from the ashes, this red zone offense will rise and become something. I don't know. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but I have no choice but to be an optimist at this point.
Yeah, the hope was that Arch Manning's legs, and they still could, would give you solutions in the red zone, because teams would have to account for them. And he tried to use his legs on design runs in the red zone, and that could still end up being the ultimate equalizer for Texas. But just looking at touchdown percentage in the red zone, last year 54th, 120th before that, and 65th in touchdown percentage in the red zone before that. Your best touchdown percentage in the red zone year actually was 2021 when you had Bijan and Rojo. And, that was kind of the peak of Texas red zone offense when Sark first got here, his first year. That is a concern, because that's when you had the least amount of offensive firepower and you had your best red zone offense. That doesn't make any sense at all. You got more and more talented and less efficient and effective in the red zone.
Well, Rod, let's go to question number 2. This kind of bleeds into it a little bit because you brought him up. I'll just say Arch Manning's performance. Are we overreacting to how bad it was, or is there some stuff in there that's a legitimate concern for you?
I'll say, just for me personally, I believe I overreacted to it. So I'm assuming a lot of people may have overreacted to it. Now, it was the most hyped up debut for a true road start for a quarterback in the history of modern college football. And it was probably the most anticipated season opener in college football. So to have a bad game on that stage, it magnifies everything, right? But I went back and looked at it, and man, his fourth quarter was awesome. Yeah. I mean, he had just to give you, Pro Football Focus had him with a 43 passing grade in the first 3 quarters, 91 passing grade in the fourth quarter. I think like 70% of his passing yards came in the fourth quarter, had that touchdown to Parker Livingstone in the fourth quarter. And you go look at all of his NFL throws. He had like 4 of them that showed you the potential, that 15-yard like shake comeback route to Parker Livingstone. That the touchdown to Parker Livingstone, I thought too was pretty impressive, giving his guy a shot in a one-on-one situation. The drop in the bucket on the cover 2 to Jack Injuries. I mean, that was fantastic. And then that 28-yard Ryan Wingo route. It was kind of a skinny post nod route that he had to fit into a tight window, looking off the safety, which was important too, keeping that safety deep by looking him off. I thought he did a great job on those throws, and those were in the fourth quarter. And maybe that's when the game slowed down for him and figured out that he was always going to have a different post-snap than a pre-snap look was always going to be different. And he started to, I think, calm down and settle a little bit in the pocket. But there were some good things. And I think Sark you can notice a trend, right? All of those, his best completions were all straight drop back. 3 of them were targets to bunch formation, where he targets to a stacked formation. So the DBs have to respect it because they have to play levels, and then they have to be less aggressive because they have to wait for the routes to, especially if you're playing match coverage, wait for the routes to determine or the routes to reveal themselves. And then, you start looking at it. I think ultimately for him, for Arch, maybe a little bit more straight drop back quick game would be good for him, just like straight drop back with the quick game. I saw Kurt Warner with a post about that. So I think there's a foundation to start with. Mechanically, he was flawed and all over the place in terms of his fundamentals and the feet being misaligned with the upper body. But those are things that he can fix, and he's got more resources than anybody to get it fixed. So I actually was more optimistic on my third watch. Looking at him, he settled down and started to make some NFL throws and show the upside in that fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, right? Fourth quarter that's clutch time, and Texas ended up being back in that game with a chance to go down and tie and take the game to overtime, and it just didn't work out for him. Couldn't make enough of those throws.
To your point, Rod, Arch threw 3 quarters, 9 for 15 for 38 yards and an interception in the fourth quarter, 8 for 15 for 132 yards and the touchdown to Parker Livingstone. So a completely different quarterback in the fourth quarter. And again, it's usually, and this is the case usually with openers, it's never as good as you think it was when you go back and watch it. It's usually never as bad as you think it was either. I think it's a little bit of that with Arch. So I agree with you. It is an overreaction. Not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater with one bad game under his belt. Rod, let's go to really, this is the last topic I want to tackle on offense. The Texas running game is ready to take off and be elite based on what we saw Saturday. Is that an overreaction, or you think there's some substance to that?
I know that is a good one. I'm a little torn on this one. I'm not going to lie, because I did not expect that running game to travel to that extent. And they ran a lot more power, gap schemes, a lot of more inside zone. And if you go look at it, Ohio State played a lot of what they call penny front. It's a 5-1 front, pretty much, where you have 3 down D linemen, 1 in a 0 technique, and then 2-3 techniques, and then you got the overhangs on the outside, those edges, and then you got basically a middle linebacker. They call it a penny front. There's different names for it or whatever, but they gave that 5-man face to Texas. And I think they did it because they wanted to shut down the outside zone. Right. That's why when, famously in NFL, when they want to shut down those outside zones, actually set the edge a little bit stronger. You can set the edge in those penny fronts. But Texas, I think maybe they believe that, hey, this is the best. And I don't know if they knew that going in, if they were going to play them like that. But ultimately it worked out well because Texas was running inside, a lot of inside runs. So I think, honestly, I am optimistic, so I'm not going to say it's an overreaction. I'm going to say your running game with Cedric Baxter now, you have more variety in your running game. You got Trey Wise, so Trey Wise is excellent for the outside zone. You got the patience, got the vision, got that burst, that kind of anticipation. But Cedric Baxter can get running downhill. They had him on a bit of a pitch count. I'm a little upset we didn't get some 21 personnel out of that too. Started out there, the pony package didn't get it, but maybe that's because Cedric Baxter's on the pitch count, so I'll give Sark some grace there. But ultimately, I think you got now more variety. Diversity in your run game. You got the power elements and you got the zone elements. You were missing that last year. You only really had one bread and butter run concept, and that was outside zone. Now Texas is going to be able to hang their hat on a couple of options: the counter, the inside power, the outside zone, of course, too. Now you're gonna have 3 or 4 different concepts. So I'm going to say with Arch Manning, now the legs of Arch Manning too, by the way, had 9 runs, I believe, for Arch, 3 scrambles, ended up being 3 first downs he accounted for with his legs, and was that 15-yarder that was an excellent run by him. I think now added with the legs of Arch too, in a new offensive line whose strength may be more one-on-one blocking schemes and gap power schemes, I'm going to say that the optimism there is justified. Like, I feel good. That may end up being ultimately what your identity is. And we'll see how good that Ohio State defense is, but Ohio State defense is going to be pretty damn good. Now, I don't know if it's going to be elite or the best in the country like it was last year, but it's going to be pretty damn good. You can go on the road and run against Ohio State. I know they were trying to stop the pass and emphasizing a lot of too high shells at times and trying to win the numbers advantage in the passing game, but still 160-something yards against Ohio State on the road is really impressive in a season opener.
I love the fact that to your point about Arch's legs, and I think this is where my optimism comes in for where the running game can go. With as much split flow as Texas runs, they love that split zone run concept. They run it pretty much since day one under Sark. If you go back, Rod, first off, the tight ends blocked the run game much better than I expected them to.
Agreed.
But you go back to the first failed 4th down where it looks like it's an RPO where Arch gives it to CJ Baxter. He gets stuffed. But if you look at it, Jack Endries doesn't block anybody, and he's going out into the flat for a short little route. With that split flow, if you can build on that, and maybe this is another thing where you talk about, hey, can you improve yourself in the red zone? That's the kind of stuff where it's like, okay, you got something here. If you can go build on it, now maybe you've got something with a mobile quarterback that you can build on that can maybe be a staple concept or a staple play that you can go to in short yardage, goal line, red zone situation. So that's just part of it. But something that I agree with Sark, too, that he said in the Monday press conference, right? If you go back and watch the game, as good as they ran the ball, you can see plenty of instances where, man, if this guy stays on his block just a split second longer, or if the back is just a little more patient, or if you pick your feet up in the hole right here, that 4, 5, 6 yard run, that's an explosive run. Or maybe that explosive run, that's a 20, 30-yard run. So they left some meat on the bone as well as they ran the ball. So I'm with you. I think it is justified to say this run game looks different. It feels different. And especially the way they were running the pin pull stuff with this offensive line, with the offensive line, let them create angles and leverage, let them get hats on people. Just not a lot of instances, Rod, where I saw offensive linemen standing around. I saw a lot of hats getting on hats. So plenty of good stuff in the run game. Rod, before we go any further, though, let everybody know about our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football, and that's our good friends at Hargrove Roofing.
Yes, sir. Hargrove Roofing, offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. So trust me, they got someone close to you that can help you out with any of your roofing needs or concerns. If you have had severe weather in your area and you're worried about whether there's some damage to your roof, or maybe it's just been a long time since you've had your roof inspected, or if you've ever had it inspected, reach out to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing, hargroveroofing.com, 512-645-3202. They do a great job. They also are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Great partnerships with Lifetime Longhorns, like my former teammate and Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, who we have on actually every Monday on the Winning Drive, courtesy of our friends at Hargrove Roofing. So any concerns about your roof, reach out to them. They're actually offering a free roof inspection right now, 512-645-3202. Know who's on your roof with our friends at Hargrove Roofing, hargroveroofing.com.
Rod, I mentioned leaving meat on the bone. I don't want to leave any meat on the bone with the offense. So it looked like you wanted to say something about the run game after I finish there. So any final thoughts on the run game or anything overreaction or justified opinions on offense?
No, I just want to say that ultimately I feel good about the run game, especially if this is where they're starting and now you have a +1 in the run game. But it is interesting that I do think the short yardage, the goal line, and the red zone issues are interconnected, because once you're down there, you do have a lot of the times ends up in a short yardage situation to convert down there at one point in the red zone. So those are interconnected. You do need to find your solution to one, maybe end up being your solution to all those issues.
No doubt. Rod, let's go to defense. Your level of expertise is the secondary. You actually did a piece on the channel a couple of weeks ago about the nickel position. And let's go to the nickel position, Rod. And I'll ask you this. Grayson Littleton is on his way to being the next great Texas defensive back based on his play on Saturday. Overreaction, or is there some substance to that?
There is plenty of substance to it. That is not an overreaction. And I have to say this because we heard the hype right?
Yeah.
Leading up to this Texas Ohio State game. They were talking about Grayson Littleton getting first team snaps at that nickel position. And that was one of the concerns, right? That question mark in the secondary. It's at nickel, and have a true freshman that's your best option there against the best wide receiving core in college football in the first game of the season, most anticipated season opener ever, potentially. That's a lot to even put on a young, talented corner, young, talented DB like Grayson Littleton. Turns out, though, he is the real deal. I think Pro Football Focus had him with the best coverage grade for any true freshman cornerback in week one. In the country, in addition to being the highest grade defender for Texas. I think he played like 19 snaps, but those 2 snaps where, and I told you guys, I said, if they see him out there, there will be an alert to the booth. Hey, true freshman out there in the slot, let's go. And they tested him back to back. They did it. Good for Ohio State. That's just good football. But the young man rose to the occasion. I think I wasn't shocked because Coach Aquino, when I asked him, is he the real deal? Coach Aquino said, yeah, he's the real deal. Like, this is not posturing. This ain't us just trying to, trying to infuse some confidence in a young man or push somebody else. No. This young man is earning the reps. And you saw right there, he earned even more playing time. So he may be the guy that just is your starting nickel, period. Now, Texas likes the fact that they have 3 starting safeties, too. So basically in that game, they either ran big nickel or they put Grayson Littleton out there. That was pretty much their options at nickel. So what we thought would be a concern is not a concern. Matter of fact, it may end up being a strength for you. This guy's on his way to being a freshman All-American. We were always wondering who's going to be the freshman All-American for Sark this year, because every year it seems like he has a freshman All-American. Well, at least we know who's the front runner to be the freshman All-American for Texas. So, guys, he's the real deal. If you can start at nickel and start at slot for Texas, or get any starting time or starting snaps at Texas at the star position. And that goes back to even when Rod B started a few games as a freshman. I do think it means you are ahead of you're basically having an accelerated rate of development, and you are way ahead of schedule in your development. And that usually points to a guy who's going to end up being an all-conference caliber guy and an NFL player. If you go look at it, that list of guys who were able to get starting reps at the star position at Texas, I'm going to compile a list from my master list of DBs and try to figure out how many guys got starting snaps at star. As a freshman, and I guarantee it ain't many, but I guarantee it's probably a 70% NFL hit rate with those kind of guys, because you got to be special to do that.
Now, Grayson Littleton, he should get a lot of work in San Jose State as a run and shoot offense. But Rod, if he needs to feather the option and take on fullbacks, you still got those oversized shoulder pads and that big Reebok jersey if he needs it.
Exactly. See, that's how you know. I did start a couple of games, but it was a different Big 12, bro. As you know, like I was doing with option teams and taking on fullbacks, covering tight ends. They had me blitzing a lot. You know what I mean? So it was pretty. It was it was pretty easy. Yeah, it was easy. I didn't have to go up against Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah,
as a true freshman. So he's more advanced than Rod B as a true freshman. I can give you that right now. He showed the makeup speed on that play where Jelani McDonald fell down. He's great knowing his leverage. Go watch him on those 2 snaps. He knows exactly where his help is. So he has outside leverage every time, and he had to show his makeup speed on that crossing route to Jeremiah Smith because Jelani McDonald fell down. He was supposed to be the whole defender, and then you can see him just take off to get on that upfield shoulder for Jeremiah Smith and break up that play. And then the slot fade, maybe the toughest route to defend in the secondary, the slot fade. Unbelievable. He has outside leverage keeps that receiver from being able to stretch him, all right, a little bit too much, and it keeps him on the hip of that receiver, but he's still out of phase. The receiver has a little bit of a step on him. So what does he do? He doesn't panic. He doesn't start freaking out. He doesn't look back prematurely. All right. So that affects his speed. No, he stays on the hip of the receiver and says, I'm just going to play the hands. All right. The hands are right there. I'm just going to play the hands. When he throws his hands up to catch it, boom, I'll shoot those hands. It's exactly what it is. Because it's a veteran move. We talk about that all the time. It's a veteran move by a true freshman. I was flabbergasted at how well he played. I shouldn't have been, but yes, he is a star. No overreaction there. Justified. That dude's going to play on Sundays. He's that good. He's one of them. Remember the first time we saw Caden Stearns as a true freshman? We're like, oh, that guy's going to play on Sundays. And it didn't go the way we thought it was going to go. He was a first team all conference as a true freshman. And then, that's probably his best season at Texas. But he still ended up being an NFL player. And you saw it from the jump. This young man, he's an NFL player.
No doubt.
I don't know how the rest of it's going to go, but he's going to play in the league.
Rod, we'll finish it with this. And by the way, Grayson Littleton's one of those true freshmen we bought stock in. We said, hey, if there's any true freshmen that get real live snaps in this game, certified baller, and 3 guys we bought stock in, Grayson Littleton, Lance Jackson, Nick Townsend, all played real positional snaps in this game. So
Dalen McCutcheon.
Dalen McCutcheon as well, something to look forward to as we move on throughout the rest of the season, especially this non-conference schedule. Rod, we'll finish it up here real quick. The Texas defense, no sacks, no takeaways. Is that a concern for you, or just a product of the game you played and the opponent you played, and they'll be fine?
I think they'll be fine. I think that's more of a certain. Remember last year they started slow too. Didn't have a lot of sacks early on last year, and then as my man Brian Robertson always says, they come in bunches. And so I think that will happen this year too. They'll go on a stretch where they'll kind of get hot, getting those sacks and splash plays and forcing those negative plays. The takeaways, yeah, I believe Sark said it was like 24 straight games.
Yes,
it had with a takeaway.
Yep.
So that's a little concerning because it sounds like that was just part of your DNA, your identity as a team. You get a takeaway. But I would say that Julian Sayin, they played a lot of 12 personnel. They didn't ask a lot of Julian Sayin. I mean, half his throws were kind of quick game throws. So they played very conservatively, especially when they got up in the game. They didn't throw the ball a lot late down the stretch. They tried to run the ball, milk the clock. So just really good game plan by Ohio State, honestly, in the end, where they were able to keep the Texas. They didn't give the Texas defense any opportunities. Even Sark said that. To generate those splash plays, third and long, and then passes, vertical shots downfield where the quarterback needs time. So ultimately, I think they'll get more splash plays. I think they'll get more takeaways. So I'm gonna say that's a little bit of that's an overreaction there. I think that defense is gonna be just fine.
And I'd say this: 2 of the balls that he put up, quote unquote, in jeopardy. Carnell Tate made 2 great catches. That sideline ball when they're coming out of the end zone, and the touchdown with Jalen Gilbo. I didn't realize, Rod, until watching the replay, he had to double clutch that with Gilbo all over him to make the catch. So again, that's that Ohio State run of first round wide receivers look like it's going to continue with Carnell Tate at this.
Yeah, it's true.
Rod, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always, as we talk about some overreactions or justified concerns for Texas coming out of the loss to Ohio State. Thank you to Matthew for producing it. Thank you to Hargrove Roofing for sponsoring it. Thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access for $39.95. Make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or over on the site, you're not missing anything before, during, and after every Texas game of the 2025 season. For Rod, for Matthew, for Hargrove Roofing, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.